Hello, welcome. In this video, we'll be going through everything you need to know about the brand new ISO 9mm, so feel free to skip around to the parts you require. If you'd like to say thanks, then don't forget to hit like, subscribe if you're new here, and maybe leave a comment to help the algorithm. To start, you will need to unlock the ISO, and this is done via the Battle Pass. You don't need to purchase any Battle Pass, you can do this free, but 20 tokens are required, and these are going to get you from F1 all the way to F4. Now if you struggle to collect the tokens, you just don't have the time to play this game as much, or you don't find it quite as enjoyable, then I'm going to leave this video in the description below, which is going to show you 3 different methods of collecting tokens while completely AFK. Your loadout can make a real difference to how quickly you can level up weapons, although a lot of it is down to personal preference. So feel free to copy this one, but the 2 things I recommend you stick to are decoy grenades. As soon as you spawn in, throw these near the enemy and you're going to pick up a lot of weapon XP for doing nothing at all. The other thing is the trophy system, especially in Shipment. Not only is it going to stop all them nasty stuns and grenades from hitting you, every time it catches something, it's also going to give you weapon XP. Therefore, it's a bit of a win-win situation. When it comes to kill streaks, I'm going to highly recommend you come in the bottom corner here and change it to score streaks. Now, rather than requiring a certain amount of kills, you now need a certain amount of points. You can collect these points by playing the objective, or you can continue to get kills. Now, as you can see from the clip here, I'm running around collecting tags, and it's all counting towards my kill streaks. Now, the advantage of this is it's a lot easier to play the objective and pick up tags than it is to collect a lot of kills. Now, the first 2 kill streaks I'm going to recommend are the UAV and the counter UAV, and these are going to give you XP when they're up in the sky and your team are collecting kills. The third one, it doesn't matter too much as long as you stay on the ground, so don't use chopper gunners or anything, because that's taking time away from collecting weapon XP. So for me, I personally like the VTOL jet. When it comes to leveling up your weapons, there's one game mode in particular that outweighs every other, and that is of course Shipment. Now in Shipment, there's 2 game modes called Kill Confirmed and Grind, where you drop tags. These are a great source of weapon XP, and you should try and focus on these as much as possible. Still try and get as many kills as you can, but trust me, collecting these tags is going to speed up that leveling process far quicker than just kills alone. Don't worry, if you're not a fan of Shipment or you just prefer to play a variety of different maps, then Grind actually has its very own game mode. Now my bit of advice here is to try and stick to the smaller maps, as it's going to make collecting and banking a lot quicker. Next up, we got 4 challenges to complete, and these aren't too difficult. So the first one is get 50 kills. The second is get 20 Hipfire kills, and I'll show you the best Hipfire build in a second. The third one is get 10 double kills, and then lastly we've got 25 point blank kills. Sticking to Shipment is probably the best method here, especially when it comes to something like point blank kills. Now for me personally, I like to run into the middle of the map as much as possible, and hopefully you run into people also crossing. But if you do struggle, the next best thing is to either wait in the middle container or one of the side containers for enemies to run through, or you'll be able to run into them that way and pick up your point blank kills. I'll quickly add, again, if you're not a fan of Shipment, then the next best method is either Shoot House, which has its own playlist, or under quick play there's an option for 10v10, but I would recommend try and stick to the smaller maps if possible. This is the Hipfire build that I went with. So for the muzzle, we've got the Longshot, recoil stabilization and recoil control. Next up, we've gone for this barrel here, which is going to help with the hipfire accuracy, damage range and bullet velocity. We've got recoil steadiness, and if you actually tune this to aim down sight speed, which is strange, your damage range goes up. I don't know if it's a glitch or not, but it actually works better going this way than it does that way. Next, we've got the Point GP3 laser, and this is the best one by a mile, as it does the control, accuracy and the sprint to fire, which is very important. If you're not a fan of the laser being visible at hip, then you can just pick this one here, but it isn't quite as good. You don't get that sprint to fire speed, but there is no con at all. 50 round mag, you're going to be spraying a lot. If you don't want the 50 round mag, you prefer the 30, then I'd probably come across the stock here and then pick this one, which is going to give you a lot of hip fire, recoil control, sprint to fire speed, movement speed, everything that we need there. 3 kills without dying 10 times and you'll complete the gold challenge. Now for this one, stick in the game mode that you preferred earlier, but just try and take things a little bit slower. Don't be afraid to let the enemies come to you. There is no rush with this one, so take your time. Arguably the hardest challenge you need to do is up next, and that's get 25 long shots. For me personally, I like to make life easier by jumping into hardcore and selecting the game modes domination and hardpoint. Now the reason I like selecting these is because the enemy will play the objective, meaning they'll run around the map a lot more. So my job is just to sit and wait at the distance required and pick the enemies off as they run around. 30 meters is required for this gun as it's an SMG. So if you struggle to know the distances, sometimes you're 20, sometimes you're trying to hit 50 meters, then I'd recommend using an optic like this one. This is going to take the guesswork out of it completely as it gives you the measurements you are away from the enemy. The next thing that's going to really help is playing the right maps. Don't get stuck on maps where there's just not them long shot capabilities. Now for me personally, I like these 6 maps here when it comes to SMG long shots. They have multiple locations at both spawns, therefore you're not wasting your time. The last thing that's going to really help when it comes to long shots is obviously using the right class, so let's go through that now. Now for the muzzle, we've gone for the lock shot. I really like the recoil pattern on this one, so I'd recommend using it. Secondly, we've gone for the underbarrel. We haven't used the FTAC Ripper in a while, but for the side to side movement on this gun, it really eliminates that, so this is really important, and it was the best underbarrel I found personally anyway. Now when it comes with the barrel, we've gone for this one here just because it's going to give us a bit more range and mainly that bullet velocity without hurting too much. The recoil control loss here is only hit recoil. Now the reason I haven't gone for some of these others like this one here, damage range, bullet velocity, yes it's good, but we're hurting that recoil control and we don't need massive amount of range because we only need to fire 30 meters. Now when it comes to these two, I don't like losing the muzzle. The muzzle is a vital part when controlling recoil, so I don't fancy using either of them. That's the tuning that I went with. If you didn't see the Hipfire Class, for some reason it works better. If I go towards damage range, we're losing range, so I don't understand it. So try and keep that around 0.14 and that would be the best tuning for you there. Now we've gone for the aim OP V4. I just gave it a try, but use the optic that you prefer. We're in hardcore. No flinch resistance is required, so a little bit more aim down sight speed. And if you are going to tune this a little bit, go slightly towards far. Lastly, the stock. No brainer for this one. Aim instability and recoil control, which are both perfect for long distances. Polyatomic is the final challenge where you end up dying far more than you normally would because you're trying to aim for the head. Now don't let that get you down. Jump into Shipment and just keep aiming for the head. The more gunfights you get into, the more chance you do of getting the headshot. The last bit of advice I'd give you guys is to use a red dot sight if you're struggling. I find it's a lot more easier to be precise with the red dot than it would be an iron sight. So the last class I need to show you is the best class to use with the ISO 9mm, and I'm going to recommend you stick with the Longshot KT85. I really like the recoil pattern when it comes to this one. I know a lot of other people like to use the spiral flash hider because it gives you a little bit aim down sight speed, but unless you're a pro, I prefer to use a little bit more recoil, which is this one here. Commando foregrip, we're still getting some recoil stabilization and some aim walking speed, but we're not hurting that aim down sight speed too much as we would an edge or a ripper. For the barrel, we're sticking with the ISO 45. I really like the fact that it gives you a bit of range and bullet velocity. The only negative is that hit recoil control, which we're not using too much, and a tiny bit down the aim down sight speed, which we're actually getting back down here. Lastly, the rear grip. This is a must, sprint to fire and aim down sight speed. I've actually tuned this slightly to recoil steadiness because there is a little bit more recoil, but sprint to fire is an absolute must. The last attachment is either a 50 round drum because you do burn through the ammo with a quick fire rate, or you can go for an optic. Maybe something like the blue dot is my preferred one if you don't like the iron sight. Now the last thing I'll quickly show you is this effect here. If you want this, you need to go to the battle pass and it is unlocked in number F10. So hopefully this video has helped you. Don't forget to hit like if it has, subscribe if you're new here. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.